Welcome to the Multifamily Deal Lab podcast, where we dissect a deal before your eyes and ears so you can discover the strategies and tactics that got each deal to the finish line. Strategies and tactics that you can put in your own toolbox to get you to the closing table. From sourcing the deal, raising, due diligence to the property takeover, Multifamily Deal Lab shows how you too can get the deal done. And now here's your host, David Lindahl.
Everybody, welcome to Multifamily Deal Lab. I'm your host, Dave Lindahl. I have Vic and Ravi, and they are on the front lines right now. Not only are they investors, but they're also doctors. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to dissect the deal. So tell everybody how you get started. Did you guys partner together at first and get started, or did you guys start separately and then meet and decide that was a great idea? I know that you were both on the front lines, and then you get off the front lines and start doing real estate investing and some other things in order to change your revenue streams. So how'd you guys get started?
Ravi basically started following me around, and I felt bad. So I was like, hey, I know this guy, Dave, you should learn from him too. So no, I'll tell you what really, it was a light bulb moment. It was literally changed my life. And I'll tell you, it was exactly, I was in Sherman Ragland's Real Estate Investing Association meeting on a Wednesday night. And then this dude from Boston showed up. He flew in, I guess, randomly. He said he was going to be a special guest speaker. And you talked about apartments and how, all the benefits of it. And it's just like a light bulb went off. And this was me sneaking out early from work, going to this Real Estate Investment Association, and then taking time away from my evenings with my family because I really wanted to learn real estate. And then that's when I knew that single families, that's good, but that there's always a different level. And it triggered everything. And so I ended up going to Orlando, where I did the boot camp down there with you guys. And then I knew I needed help, because I think multifamily is a team sport. It's hard to do it solo.
Oh, absolutely.
And my dad and I were already in it, but we wanted to get someone else who has that same passion for real estate and to try to help tenants and get good properties and grow our wealth independence. And my wife actually introduced us. She was like, dude, this guy has the same interests as you. He's interested in everything you want to do. He's done a Tough Mudder. You've done a Tough Mudder. You guys could get together, man. And so that's sort of how it happened. And that's how we started our multifamily company, Viking Capital.
Awesome. Rob, tell us your story.
Yeah, it's funny. We really run parallel lives. I mean, when Vic said, when he started mentioning a life-changing moment, I thought he was going to say when he met me, but no, it was when he met you. Yeah, so we run parallel lives. I mean, I started investing in Washington, D.C., like back in 2009 when it was kind of the nadir of that economic cycle. And my wife and I were buying these multifamily properties. We didn't know really what we were doing, but we were in essence buying value-add properties, like 2-3 unit properties. And we renovated, really gut renovated them, lived in one unit, rented the other 2, did that multiple times, actually ended up buying 4 of them. And then that gave us enough income so that we were, pulling back clinically. She's also a doctor too. Interestingly, Vikram's and my wife do they practice the same type of medicine. They're both rheumatologists. And so we pulled back 50% probably clinical. And then Vic and I met, and he was like, hey, let's, partner and buy 100 unit complexes. And I'm like, you're insane, man. Like, who's going to be able to manage 100 units? That sounds crazy. I've got 11 and I'm really maxed out. I can't imagine this. But then that's when we started doing the RE mentor coaching and going to your conferences and learning those types of techniques. And then we just started building one on top of the other, and the rest is history.
So where are you at now? How many units? How many deals have you done? You guys, you two?
We've done 12 multifamily projects. We're on our 13th right now, and 2,600 units, with ourselves and some of our partners. And we've raised about $40 million of private money.
Do you still own all 12, or have you sold some off?
And we sold 5 of them. They're all C-class deals, and we ended up, following your market cycle book and emerging markets. And then we knew that the end was coming. And so we sold some. Many of you guys know Maureen Miles, so we joined her early on. And so some of the deals were with her, and the other ones we were doing on our own. But yeah, we ended up exiting 5 deals, averaging about 26% cash on cash return for our investors. And yeah, overall good exits, and then we're going to hold on to the rest until the opportune time.
All right, so let's dissect your first deal for the people that are just getting started. Your first larger deal, because Rob, you were doing some smaller ones, but so you made the jump up. What was your first larger deal?
So it was a 118 unit complex. Yeah, the 118 unit. Yeah, Ascent 118 unit complex in Riverdale, South Atlanta, and this deal was really our first foray into multifamily, with us being the primary GPs. And it's kind of a funny story. I can probably share it now that we've sold it, but we actually bid for that property and we were number 2. And the owner was all about giving it to one of the number 1 bidder. They had a really nice bid. And then what happened was the property next door, which is was a vacant condo complex. There was a lot of prostitution, a lot of drug deals, a lot of crime there. And somebody ended up getting shot. Like right off the main road of that property. And it was big in the news, police came, all this kind of stuff. It was, and the guy was like, look, I don't want to deal with this. I'm out. So then it fell on us. So we were the number 2 bidder. And that's like just a good lesson in that if you don't get the primary bid, probably 20% of the time, the higher bidder is going to back out for whatever reason. I mean, maybe in his due diligence, he doesn't really like the property, or he put a bunch of bids on and there may be another one that he's more focused on and he backs out of this one. But that's what happened. That's what happened for us. So we were able to get it. We got it at a pretty good price. We actually, in fact, purchased the fractured condo complex next door too.
Oh, nice.
It was, yeah. And so we really did a major repositioning on that.
Was this a deal that you got from a broker? Or how did you source this deal and how did you develop the relationship? Did you get lucky or did you cultivate the relationship for the broker?
Vic can speak of that.
Great question, Dave. So I would say 85% of all deals, maybe 75% of all deals, they go through hands of a broker. So I know there's a lot of strategies to get deals, but I would say you would have to have some strong broker relationships. And I think Dave has this famous moniker, right? Like you need 1 broker will set you up, 2 will make your family wealthy, 3 you can leave a legacy or something like that.
Yeah.
There's one broker in Atlanta, they're called the Browns. And, I've been trying to cultivate a relationship with them for almost 2 years now. And they're throwing me a lot of garbage deals and things and like war zones and then just like other things. And I would keep meeting with him. I would talk to him on the phone. I brought him a bottle of wine a couple of times and he started liking me and he actually started giving me some good deals. And finally, this is 2 years in the making, by the way. So it does take some time to cultivate a relationship.
Why did you focus on this particular broker? Why did you spend that time being persistent with him?
He was starting off as well. I mean, it's his family's company, so it's like all the Browns. They own all the brothers, and then the dad have this realty company. But they have the kind of properties we're looking for, which is the value adds C and B properties. And they were not a big shop, so they're not getting like international buyers and things. They're getting like local buyers. And so I made the case that I grew up in Atlanta. I know Atlanta well, and so we had some commonality. We became some friendships were developed, and then he saw I was persistent. I kept on going with him and looking at deals and putting in offers. And then, we had Goff as our coach. And so we finally put in this offer. We got the backup offer finally accepted. And he said, look, this is what you need to get to win this deal. And he actually told me what we need to do to win the deal. So which was really cool. And finally, with his guidance, Don's help, Ravi and I made this sort of the leap of faith and saying, hey, look, let's take this deal down. The numbers make sense. It fits the criteria. Let's do it.
Yeah. So you made a couple of good points there. Number one, you were persistent with a broker that was doing the type of deals that you wanted to get. You found commonality with the broker. You gave gifts, which the law of reciprocity starts kicking in when you start doing that. They sent you crappy deals at the beginning, and you would always respond back with what you were looking for, which is the way to do it. And then fourthly, he started giving you guidance. We call it guidance when they tell you what you need to do to get the deal done, because most of the time the brokers know what the strike price of the seller is, and they know what type of a seller it is. And they actually, all sellers, once they get a relationship with a broker, they sold, probably use a lot of times multiple deals to that particular brokerage. and they know how they usually come in off of off of asking price. So if somebody's asking like X amount of dollars for a property, a particular seller may typically be going over like 20%, 50%, 10%, or maybe close to. But a broker knows that, and they will give you guidance if they like you, basically, and tell you how to buy the property. And you just come in and do what they say, and boom, you got it. So that was an excellent analogy of what it takes to get a broker. Now that took 2 years. Typically it doesn't take that long. Sometimes you get lucky and you find commonality and they like you, hit it off, and you get something within 1 or 2 months. The average time is between 4 to 6 months, but you keep being persistent, and deals will come.
I can add to that, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, I think really that the inflection came when Vic met up with Chandler Brown, and he was getting married, and then gave him this really nice wedding gift. It literally, at that point, he was like, I think in his mind, Chandler was like, and actually, in fact, we know this because of conversations we had later with him. He was like, I like this guy. This guy is, he's such a nice guy. He follows up with me, he meets up with me. And that's when we got the deal. That was really the point, the transition point.
That reminds me of Jeff Kissy, 9 months going out trying to get deals, trying to work brokers in Denver. One of the brokers he's pursuing, he finds out is having a baby. His wife goes out and finds a really nice baby buggy, sends it over to him, and boom, they get a deal. Shortly after. Now, something you said, Rob, was the fact that you were number 2. And a lot of times number 2 actually becomes number 1, because number 1, a lot of times they go in too high. They go in with the strategy of going into that due diligence process, knowing that they're going to try to beat that price down. And a lot of them do it wrong, and they insult the broker to the point where the broker just kicks them out and they go to number 2. So being number 2 is actually a good spot to be in.
Dave, I have to share with you another story. So we've evolved this strategy to the next level now. So now that we have a little bit of funds to play with, and we've gotten some deals under our belt. We were in Atlanta, and it was December of 2019, and we really needed to get another deal done that, because we had so much equity sort of like asking for us to get a good value add deal. And so we're getting like sort of struck out on a lot of deals. And then finally I made a commitment that, look, I'm going to get a deal done no matter what, as long as the numbers make sense, obviously. And so I flew down to Atlanta. I asked my dad to go to the liquor store. And he's like, why do you need to go? Just go to the liquor store, Dad, and pick up what I asked you to pick up, and then pick me up from the airport. So he goes to the liquor store, he comes back. So then I go, Dad, I need to borrow the car. Thanks for getting me what I need. I'll see you in the evening. And so I opened up the trunk. I have 10 Dom Perignons. And for those of you who don't know, that's a really high-end champagne. So I proceed to go to all the major brokers, CBRE, Cushman, Newmark, the Browns, our good friends from the original deal. And there's Berkadia. And literally I meet with all of them in one day. And after, obviously presenting ourselves and, really doing all the sort of the networking, within 2 weeks, we got another deal. So, there's,
you said.
I'm not saying the Dom had anything to do with it, but it's, you do need to put in the time.
What you said was, this is for our future deal together. We're going to celebrate our next deal together. I love how you put that. So it just planted that seed.
That's a good phrase. So this is what we're going to do to celebrate our next deal. Yeah. You just said something, Vic, that was very telling. You said our good friends, the Browns, where you didn't even know these people prior to, you pursued them for a while, and now you're doing deals with them, and now they're good friends of yours, that's what happens. That's why you find the commonality, and you become friends with these brokers, and you become true friends with these people, and they become part of your life. That's what's nice about this business. All right, so let's go to the raising money part. So you got the deal. Was there a strategy on price going in when you were making your offer on this particular deal? Was it open-ended with no price, or did they actually have a price set going in?
Yeah, there was a whisper price that we were given, and we followed their guidance on it. There really was a lot of demand for this particular asset, so we followed their guidance. But it did actually make financial sense for us too. We hit the trifecta, as you call it.
Holy Trinity.
Yeah, the Trinity. Trinity.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about raising funds. So how did you, when you were first starting out, let's start there first, because there's a lot of people that are watching that are starting out. There's a lot of people that have done a few deals, and everybody's looking to raise more funds. So when you were first starting out, what did you focus on?
For me, it's hard to be a salesman. And in essence, that's what you're doing. You're sort of selling something to somebody. And over time, that thought evolved as I'm actually giving somebody an opportunity to come into this particular deal because it's a highly profitable venture that you're partnering with me on. But in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm selling this. I'm a kind of a salesman. And that mentality, for me, it was sort of like destructive. It pulled me back from what I potentially could do. But it's important to kind of evolve that thought process, and you get the lingo down, you get the language down, you talk to people, you get, a lot of people initially were like, okay, what are you doing exactly? But luckily, the hospital where I work, I was there for I think 8 years at that point, 8 to 10 years. I knew a lot of folks. They knew what I did previously. And when I presented this as a new opportunity, I started getting some positive feedback. So once you start getting that positive feedback, like you get the first person, second person, it starts this chain reaction. And then, you start feeling good about it. It's really that first or second person and really getting your elevator pitch, knowing the vocabulary is what's important. But after that, it becomes easier.
So did you go into your Rolodex and focus on certain people and ask them to take them out to lunch, or did you go to meetups?
No, what I did was at the hospital, I would run into somebody and just a casual conversation, we'd just say, hey, what are you up to? And I'd say, hey, this is what I'm up to. I'm starting a company where we're actually purchasing these apartment complexes and we're partnering with people such as yourselves. And it evolved from that. It was casual conversation with people I met around the hospital. And it actually has turned into a situation where now that I go in, people are trying to find me. They're like, oh, that's the doc that actually, kind of got out of medicine, and hey, can you help me? Like, I want to invest in your next deal. I mean, it's become my second office almost, just walking into the hospital. So it's changed a bit since I started.
Interesting. How about you, Vic? Did you guys focus together? Did you have a strategy together, or were you just, doing your own things?
Yeah, I think we're doing our own things because there's different networks, different people we know. But it's really just, I would say the advice I want to give to all the folks listening is everyone knows enough people to probably raise even $1 million. Just even I don't care where you're from. There's enough people out there that you already know that you just don't realize you need to ask or talk about. So I think the key that what we've been taught is always to talk about what you do. People don't know that you're raising funds or that you're buying an apartment complex or even about it. So it's education. And in a way, when you're educating, the natural question is, oh, are you taking investors or can you tell me more about that? And, you can sort of gauge their interest. So it was a warm friends and family kind of exploration at the beginning, Dave. But then after we got a deal or two, then word of mouth and then networking. And then now we're starting to go to conferences and, like you said, I've joined something called the Tower Club, which is sort of a networking place in DC, Northern Virginia, where the Rotary folks, CEOs, executives, people just start showing up, and it's a cool place to start talking and networking, and so that's one way of doing it. Then you got your warm network, you got your sort of cold network. When we got the conferences and educational places, there's always obviously the first time we went to the family office meeting, the Wilson office, Ravi went down there this past year. He said it was a phenomenal experience. And so start with the warm network, then do the organizations and associations. And then you go out to your, the sort of these meetings and conferences, and then obviously word of mouth and referrals.
Excellent. All good points. All right, so let's go back to this deal. So every deal has a challenge before you get it to the closing table. So what was the challenge in that particular deal?
Well, this one had a laundry list of challenges. Probably the biggest one was the complex next door, because as I mentioned, they're prostitutes, drug deals. I mean, you name it, it was right there. And the kids from this apartment complex would go play in that, the vacant condos next door, and that was a big liability and it was a big issue. So that was the biggest challenge that we had. On top of that, we had a management company that was pretty solid, but they sort of were not at the level that we expect now. Of course, we were just getting started. So we were it's just this dynamic going back and forth, which probably wasn't optimized. Optimizing that was another challenge. And also there are certain bad players that, these tenants that were very disruptive and the cops were called on them multiple times and that type of thing. So that was another challenge. I mean, there's plenty of them, but those are the top three that I can think of.
Any on the top of your head, Vic, that weren't mentioned? Because I have a question on regarding the complex next door.
Yeah, those are the main ones, I would say.
So the complex next door, did you know going into buying this property that you were going to be able to buy the one next door and mitigate that risk?
We had an idea. We didn't know for sure. It was actually a fractured condo complex, and
oh wow, so
yeah.
Probably one of the toughest deals to get into control.
Correct, because
controlling the complex itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how'd you do that? That's interesting. How'd you get control and actually control it with all those different owners? How many units was it?
There were 62 units, and that was there were 6 owners.
6 owners with 62 units. Okay.
Yeah. And one of the owners, which was Rialto, they got it on a fire sale. They got these units, and there were 2 of them that owned the majority of units. Another one owned 14 of them. And they were just going back and forth because they just could not get along as to how they wanted to fix the condo units themselves. And it was they got it at such a low cost. They literally just put it aside and just forgot about it. So we approached Rialto initially, and they were very open to selling. They just wanted to get rid of them. So we got the 44 units we got pretty quickly. The next 14 with this group called DJ Mortgage, that was very difficult because those guys were probably the sticklers of the group. They didn't want to sell at a lower price, and I remember going to negotiate with them, and I said, "Hey, look, $25,000 a unit is a lot for what you've given us. There's a lot of deferred maintenance, this, that, and the other." And they're like, "Oh, really?" And I gave them a great argument. I mean, I thought it was like a perfect argument. And their answer was to me, 25 is too much. Okay, 26. If you don't take it, we're
I've negotiated with people like that before.
Yeah.
It's like, what? First time it happens, like, what? Did you understand? And they say, then 27.
Yeah. And they got us to sign. And this is I usually don't lose sleep, but this is the one time I lost sleep, where I signed a contract where basically we said we'd give a large deposit and they could walk away for no reason at all. This is the only contract they would allow us to sign. They could walk away for no reason at all. And if they did, we'd basically have nothing in our hands. So we signed that contract. Luckily, we went to closing and got those 14. The rest were individual owners. 2 of them wanted to get out quickly because they were just sitting on their properties. The other 2 really held back, and we ended up giving them a higher amount. It was like $50,000 each. It was more than we wanted to, but it was fine. The blended purchase price per unit was pretty low, and that's how we got them all under contract.
Did they know you owned the rest of them? Was that why they held out?
Yeah, yep. They knew. They did it smartly. I mean, they knew what was going on, and they knew that we needed control of the full asset, so they just held out for the maximum amount.
Well, congratulations. That endeavor is the success rate of that endeavor is very, very low. So you guys got it done. So kudos to you.
Yeah.
All right. So we get to the closing. How much was your acquisition fee at closing?
It was 4%.
Of what was the purchase price?
4.125 was it for that one? For the 118 units, it's 4.125.
What does that equal? 4% of
$1 million.
180,000?
Yeah.
So 180,000 acquisition fee for the deal, and then you repositioned it. So you paid for 4.125. You repositioned it. You held it for how long?
2 years.
Did you sell these 2 properties together, or did you just sell this individually?
And we sold it as a 180 unit together. And the other one was too risky to bring in investors, Dave, the condos. And so we had to use a bridge debt, our own funds, and borrowed some money from other friends and family. And then we pieced that one together. So the total purchase price, Ravi, what would you say between the 2 properties that we bought it at?
Like around $7 million. That was what we purchased.
For 180 units. Yeah.
And when did you sell it for 2 years later?
13.5.
Ooh, nice. How much did you put into it between, you bought them both for 7. How much did you put in?
You mean personally?
No. I mean,
like how much,
rehab,
not personally,
rehab.
but no, how much did, there was a repositioning, yes? So you had to like those,
So for the fractured condo complex, it was 1.5 million. The CapEx budget was 1.5. So it was basically 1.5 to purchase, 1.5 we put into it. And then for the 118 unit, we put in about, it was about 500,000, 500 or 600,000.
so you had a profit about 6.5 million or 5.5 million?
We had
5.5.
5.5. Yeah.
5.5? In 2 years' time. Not bad. That's awesome. Congratulations on that deal.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tell everybody what you're doing. You know, people make money and that's a good thing, but it's what you do with that money is important as well. And talk about the school program that you guys told me about that you're doing.
Yes. You know, one of the things both Vic and I believe in, it's really a passion for us and close to our hearts, is to give back. We like to create relationships with other organizations and like in this particular instance with the county, and work with them in where they need help. So what we did for this project was we partnered with Fairfax County. That's where we both live. And we know that there's certain students in our program, elementary school students all the way to high school students, that just can't afford even subsidized meals. Like it's 50 cents for breakfast and 85 cents for lunch. You know, some kids can't even afford that. In fact, we were meeting one of the principals in one of the schools, and they said this one girl had about $400 to her name in debt because she just couldn't pay for so many years. She couldn't even pay for the meals, and it got to be such a large amount. So what we did was we partnered with them, and we just started paying off the debt for different schools. And it was actually quite nice that one of the local news organizations got hold of this and put a little segment about us on the news, which was awesome. But the good thing about that was that it actually spread the word and more people started doing it. And it's sort of just like went from a small thing to quite a large thing. And it was really nice to see.
And you realized that opportunity because you had contacted a representative from your area?
Actually, my wife saw it on Facebook. She saw that, we were looking at ways to help kids in need. Both of us have young kids, and we're, just kind of inclined to do that. And she found this post on Facebook where somebody said, hey, you could actually help them pay for their meals. And then she told us about this, and then we both started talking, and that's when we decided to partner with Fairfax County. And we do have contacts, like one of the congressmen in our district lives in my neighborhood. So I talk to him every so often. So he was the one that put me in touch with these people at Fairfax County.
That's awesome. By the way, next week we're having Don Goff. Don Goff was the coach to Ravi and Vic. And I'm having Don come on because he's been one of our original coaches way back in, I think we started a coaching program in 2006. And he's one of our originals, and he has coached so many students. So I'm going to grill him on best practices, the things that he has seen, the actions that if students take these actions, they become successful. And he's going to talk about the different roadblocks that he sees comes up in different students' lives and how they handle them. And or I should call them forks in the road, the different forks in the road that comes up in students' life. And if they take the wrong road, what typically happens, and if they take the right road, what typically happens. So there's going to be a lot of great insight and information from Don's 13, 14 years of coaching that we're going to get next week. So we'll see everybody next week. And it's still until we get a vaccine, don't touch any doorknobs out there. Be safe. Take care. See you next week.
You've been listening to the Multifamily Deal Lab podcast, where the deals get done. If you'd like to learn more, visit davesfreebook.com. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating and review, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.